Welcome back, Alpha Hunters. Hope everybody's had a very fantastic week. Hopefully, you have a fantastic weekend coming up. Just a heads up, I will not be around all of this next week. I will be probably be getting out a late market outlook next weekend. Probably come out, I don't know, probably Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon or something like that. I don't know when exactly I'll be getting back from my trip. I'm going to Colorado. So I basically won't even really have cell service. I'll be up in the mountains and stuff like that. So don't think anything bad happened to me if you don't see much going on this next week, as I'll just be gone. A little vacation, and I was actually just informed this late yesterday. I want to give you a little bit more of a warning. Anyways, we got this week. So we got some economic data, right? It wasn't anything we weren't kind of thinking that the market was going to have dramatic consequences from, but we got stuff throughout the week. We got a lot of Fed talkers kind of going on throughout the week, so not a great deal of information kind of came out of that I saw all that much. We really didn't get much in the way of economic data until we got to Thursday. We got CPI data and the weekly jobs numbers. Well, initial jobless claims for the week came in a little bit of an uptick. You see all these little flat blue bars coming through here. Then we got this little boop, this little uptick that came in Thursday morning. Initial jobless claims prior week was at 225K. Forecast was calling for 230K. So we were expecting a little bit of an increase. Well, it shot all the way up to 258K. So there you go. A little bit of an increase there. The probably bigger one that we were waiting to get this week was CPI. We got inflation rate year over year. We have seen past 5-6 months basically on the decline. Prior was at 2.5. Forecast is calling for 2.3. Actual came in at 2.4. So still continuing to trend down. Just didn't drop as much as the market was kind of hoping, expecting. And the core rate, which has been a little bit more of the stickier side, hasn't been dropping nearly as much. Prior was 3.2, forecast was 3.2. Actual actually increased 3.3%. So there you go. A little bit of an increase there. Friday morning, we got PPI. Prior was at 1.9%. Forecast is calling for 1.6%. We actually got a 1.8% number. So kind of like CPI, we saw that decrease trend or the trend lower continue, just not at the rate that the market and economists kind of expecting there. And then we got core PPI. Well, prior was 2.6%, forecast 2.7%. Actual actually came in at 2.8%. So even forecast was expecting a little bit of an increase. We got a little bit more of an increase than that. That's basically the economic data that we got this week. That was like the big stuff. There was some other things, but not a whole lot. As far as the way the week went, we did have a decent gap down there to kind of start the week, about a 0.25% drop off, or lower open there on Monday, kind of just sideways, and it just kind of slowly faded. Nice little wash out there towards the back half of the day there on Monday. Tuesday, all we did kind of gap up, traded higher, moved higher into the close. It was looking pretty decent. Wednesday, traded even higher, moved sideways there the second half of the day on Wednesday. CPI and weekly jobs numbers on Thursday morning, gap down, kind of just traded sideways there for about the first hour and a half or so. Moved a little bit higher into the middle part of the day and then kind of pulled back pretty good because we came all the way back and broke the morning lows and then moved off of that low, moved back higher towards probably the middle part of the day. I mean, we didn't do anything kind of crazy off the bottom. We just moved off the bottom of the day a little bit. Friday, basically a flat open and then just absolutely just ran bullish first hour. Just very nice bullish run. And then that was basically it. Just moved sideways, a little bit of pullback, just slow grind higher in the second half of the day. So that was basically the way it went there for the week. All right, as far as sector rotation for the week, we had utilities at the lower end of the week. Utilities been running pretty good, especially like the nuclear energy utilities. There's a few names, CEG and SRE. Both of those have been running really hot. I've been running really good this year. So if you want to take a look at both of those, but they did have some pretty decent pullbacks throughout this week. Anyways, discretionaries also underperformed. Discretionaries got hit a little bit there on Friday. Tesla was down pretty good. They had a pretty big event there on Thursday, so they had a pretty bearish day there on Thursday. And then you had communications, energies, real estate underperforming. yields moved higher throughout the week, so it makes sense that real estate kind of lagged behind a little bit this week. Staples and materials also underperformed. Healthcare outperformed. Financials as well, especially on Friday, as we just now kind of got into that earnings season. JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo both had earnings Friday morning. Both did really good, uplifted the entire financial sector, so they all did very well. You can kind of see financials Thursday were actually underperforming pretty good compared to the market, and then Friday came all the way back and did outperform the market on the week. Industrials also did pretty good there for the week. They actually had a pretty good day there on Friday as well. And then tech, the week's best performer, did pretty good just pretty much throughout the whole week. All right, VIX. Well, we definitely continued higher Monday, just steadily pulled back right on top of the 10 EMA on a daily. Going to be really kind of curious to see what we do here going forward, especially sitting right on top of this like previous little high breakout spot from last week. So was this the breakout on Monday, and we just took like the rest of the week to pull back into that area, and maybe we'll move higher. Be curious to see. Honestly, I don't think we'll see a huge drop off here. I think we'll see more of sideways here. Maybe we throw some wicks below the 10 EMA, but I don't think we'll just drop off anytime this next week. I think probably just more sideways and maybe look to move higher towards the second half of this next week. DXY dollar index. Okay, I'm going to throw on the long terms. We continue to move higher very nicely throughout the week. Monday, Tuesday, just kind of sideways. Consolidation. Wednesday pushed higher. Thursday through an upper wick, kind of doji action, kind of retesting into this kind of hump area. We got into it a little bit, just short of that 100 moving average. So if we consolidate here again, I mean, we might just push right through that 100, and then maybe we make a run up to that 200 moving average. So maybe what I'm looking for here on the DXY. We could also just not make it through there, and then maybe we get compressed in between the 100 moving average and, maybe the 10, 20, and 50 as they come up. Maybe get sandwiched in here over the next couple of weeks. Just kind of have to wait and see. Kind of just want to be hands off, but just be aware that the dollar is kind of moving for now. GLD, the gold trust. Well, we did have a nice little continuation of some pullbacks and consolidation to start the week. A nice little drop off there on Tuesday. I was going to be curious to see if we came down into some of these like lower, really solid spots to get into, but just sticking with my, be bullish on any dips kind of mentality. Seems to be working for now. We did have a nice little end of the week run on Thursday, Friday, so it looks pretty good. Probably continues higher going forward. I don't think we're gonna just continue to pull back now. But if we do roll over and actually take out this low, we might have a pretty good, decent pullback. So yeah, if we do come back down and take out some of these lows, I don't think you have to worry about putting in like an entry order right below the low of this past week. I think you can wait probably and get it at a lower level. So anyways, that's just kind of what I'm looking for there. 10-year yield. Okay, we did as well see some bullishness on the yield side throughout this week, just like the dollar. We kind of got through that 10 EMA, throwing some upper wicks a little bit there Thursday, Friday. I don't think that's going to be the top right there. So maybe we come up to the lower end of this little spot that we had back in mid-July. Maybe make a run up to that 200 moving average. Probably somewhere in there maybe makes sense. So if you're playing it in other ways, just be mindful that I think we're going to push a little bit higher here. 10 and 2 inversion. Well, we did come down from last Friday and hit right into the base of that zero line on Monday and bounced after that throughout the week. So Friday looked pretty good. Probably continues higher. Probably continues to be uninverted going forward. I don't see why it would bounce off that level and then we would roll over. So it's looking pretty good there. HYG, kind of thought this might break down, as Thursday was happening, but definitely wanted to see it break below that 50 EMA. It didn't do it. It bounced. We just got into that 10 EMA. So definitely going to be curious to see how this thing kind of forms here this next week. I wish I was going to be around to maybe look to see if I could play this because now that we got the bounce clearly on Friday, if we roll back over and take out these lows from this past week and below that 50 EMA, if we get below all that, you're probably definitely looking for a move lower. We might push a little bit higher early this next week, but if we come right back down and start to come right through those lows, I'd be willing to take that a little bit more bearish. The LQD, yeah, as kind of mentioned late last week, it was getting into these levels, and I wouldn't want to be looking to be bullish or bearish or anything. You could maybe try to be bullish on it. It's going to be a pretty good zone with this low, this high from early August. So yeah, it just it was one of those that once we got in that area, I wouldn't want to be anything. You can see people are trying to buy it. It's not really, doesn't really have the momentum it has it did getting there. It is steadily making its way through that area, though. It is halfway between that 50 EMA, that 100 moving average. So it is a tough one. I wouldn't want to play it. Just to me, you probably got the bigger move back over here last week mostly. I think you're probably just saying, you know what, I'll wait for this thing to maybe set up a little bit, and you might see a little pop maybe this next week. We'll see. TLT looking like it wants to just continue to fall off because basically it just did. It just went through a lot of support levels this week. Yeah, we got there last Friday, or basically there to last Friday, kind of gap below that 100 moving average on Monday, but we just kind of kept slicing through them as the week went on. Got all the way through the 100, the 200, below these highs back from June and July. So that's kind of a tough one as yields have continued to move higher. Yeah, the TLTs continue to move lower. I think I'd just rather definitely just be more patient here and wait for something clearly to set up because we've just been smashing through like a lot of levels. All right, the RSP continuing to move higher this week. Monday came out and I was kind of concerned, honestly. When I was doing a live stream on Monday, we were basically sitting just about at that 10 EMA. I was like, okay, we'll probably start to kind of base out here, push higher. But we just wound up dropping off there that afternoon. You saw that. So we came all the way down, took out these lows basically from last week and whatever day this was, September 25th. And then that was basically it. But, I was kind of watching. I was like, ooh, man, are we really just going to start to drop off now and do that possible head and shoulders look? It would have looked pretty nasty, but we didn't do that. And after that, it kind of got on its horse, moved higher. Obviously, you can see we're basically at all-time highs, hit all-time highs here on Friday. So looking pretty good. Nice little move there, up on Friday, up on Wednesday as well. Honestly, I'd expect it just to kind of slowly grind higher as we're going to continue to have some earnings next week, a lot of financial earnings next week. And after that, once we get towards the second half of next week, I'll be curious to see how the market performs, especially as people start to look ahead to tech earnings, which tech earnings not going to be this next week, but the week after. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the first half of this next week, probably bullishness, not crazy bullishness, definitely not like what we saw Wednesday or Friday, but maybe just a slow grind higher a little bit. And then maybe the second half of the week as people start to look towards tech earnings, maybe we start to see a little bit more, some pullbacks, some selling, especially in the Qs area. You can see the DIA, nice little bullish move there on Wednesday. Thursday, look at that very solid setup there on Thursday. Look at that lower wick, inside candle there from Wednesday, Thursday. Man, that looks so good to take that bullish there on Friday. I hope someone snagged that. That looks super, super solid. There you go. Friday, just absolutely just whoop. Right through previous all-time highs. So yeah, I'd also expect the DIA probably just to push a little bit higher this next week. Nothing crazy going on there. IWM actually finished the week very strong, up 2% there on Friday. I didn't really know what to make of the IWM. It's been really weird here lately. We've kind of been watching this downtrend line in the live stream and kind of mentioned, as the week was going on, even late last week, like, hey, once we break this downtrend, we're probably just going to have a really strong pop through. Well, it happened on Friday, and if we didn't do that by Friday, I would say, yeah, I'd be watching out for that. Well, it happened on Friday, so for all you weekend watchers, my bad. We tried to do that on Wednesday, but I think you're probably okay to probably be playing this higher for now. I wouldn't be crazy strong looking to be leveraged in any way, but yeah, I'd probably just continue higher for now. Other than that, IWM, very nice, strong way to end the week. The Qs. Okay, so we saw the tech earlier was the best performing sector on the week. Well, a lot of that was because of Tuesday and Wednesday. But you see, Thursday and Friday didn't really do a whole lot. You've seen quite a bit of bullishness across the IWM, the DIA, the RSP to end out on Friday. The Qs, not so much. Now, a big part of that was, well, Tesla had a pretty bad day on Friday, so it didn't perform as much. But this is the area where if we start to see some real sluggishness in the Qs, the first half of this next week, right? If we're just seeing some sideways moves, right? If we're just kind of going sideways a little bit, or we're going to start to go down a little bit, nothing crazy, but we're definitely not keeping up with maybe the RSP, the SPY, that kind of stuff. We're starting to do that kind of stuff by Wednesday. I would be watching out Thursday, Friday, especially if we're not. I'm not saying we're going to get absolutely destroyed and wrecked in tech world Thursday, Friday, but if they're not doing much here in this sector of the market or this part of the market, guys, you got to be real careful. You got to be real careful. There's a lot of waiting here still. We've seen some very strong rotations out of tech over the past quarter or so of trading. And the past 2 quarters from tech earnings have not exactly been the strongest things ever. So we're continuing to see that they are, spending a lot on developing AI tools and stuff like that. But energy costs are going higher. And once that comes through in earnings, that they are going to start to get hammered because of energy costs going higher, that will be a very bad time there for tech, and probably wouldn't just last a day. It probably wouldn't last a month, probably wouldn't last just a quarter either. So it's not like it's going to be a quick fix to build out energy infrastructure overnight. That would take years to do that. So watch how tech kind of trades this next week. We are still not close to all-time highs. We're still like, 3% away or so. So yeah, I mean, we still got room to run. We're still having that lower high here that actually played out now across quarters with the RSP, SPY hitting highs this week. So I would just be definitely watching the Qs this week, as if they're not doing as much in the way of maybe pushing a little bit higher, I would be definitely taking note of that. Yeah, you can see the SPY hit all-time highs there on Wednesday, continued higher there on Friday. That's what I'll be watching. I would watch, honestly. I'll watch as much as I can, but I'll be on my phone in Colorado, and I'll try to get out a market outlook next week. I will most likely get one out. It'll just probably be super short as we go into tech earnings that following week. But as for the SPY, I wouldn't be surprised. We just have to slow grind higher first half this next week, kind of just like the RSP. And then maybe a little bit of a pullback there Thursday, Friday as we look to go into tech earnings the following week. Alpha Hunters, have a great weekend. Have a fantastic weekend. Have a safe weekend. And take care.